Our grand odyssey into the heart of Greek history begins not with the clatter of swords or the pronouncements of philosophers, but with the whispers of an age lost to time, where myth and archaeology intertwine. Long before the classical marvels, the very foundations of this vibrant civilization were laid in the Bronze Age, a period of remarkable innovation and burgeoning complexity in the Aegean. Our first glimpse into this nascent world brings us to the island of Crete, home to the enigmatic Minoan civilization, circa 2700 to 1450 BCE. Unlike the later warrior cultures, the Minoans were primarily a thalassocracy, a seafaring empire built on trade and naval power. Their magnificent palatial complexes, particularly the sprawling palace of Knossos, are breathtaking testaments to their sophistication. These were not merely royal residences, but administrative, religious, and economic hubs, sprawling, multi-storied structures adorned with vivid frescoes depicting agile bull leapers, graceful dolphins, and serene priestesses. Their script, Linear A, remains an tantalizing mystery, undeciphered to this day, leaving their inner thoughts and precise political structures to educated guesswork. The Minoans were master artisans, producing exquisite pottery, elaborate jewelry, and finely crafted bronze work, demonstrating a keen aesthetic sense and advanced metallurgical skills. Their sudden and dramatic decline around 1450 BCE remains a subject of intense debate. Was it the catastrophic eruption of the Thera volcano, burying the island of Santorini under ash and triggering tsunamis, or perhaps the growing power of a new, more aggressive force from the mainland? That aggressive force were the Mycenaeans, circa 1600 to 1100 BCE, the legendary Achaeans of Homeric epic. Centered on mainland Greece, their civilization was a stark contrast to the Minoans. Their citadels, like the monumental Mycenae, Tiryns, and Pylos, were fortresses, built with colossal cyclopean walls, so named because later Greeks believed only giants could have moved such immense stones. These were warrior kings, their wealth derived from conquest and plunder as much as trade. Their art often depicted scenes of hunting and warfare, and their thoulos tombs, impressive beehive-shaped structures, were filled with rich grave goods, including the famous Mask of Agamemnon. Crucially, the Mycenaeans left us Linear B, a syllabic script deciphered in the 1950s by Michael Ventris and John Chadwick. This script revealed not epic poems, but meticulous administrative records, inventories of goods, lists of personnel, and land holdings, providing invaluable insights into their highly centralized palace economies and social hierarchies. This was the world that gave birth to the epic tales of the Trojan War, a conflict that, regardless of its precise historical accuracy, profoundly shaped Greek identity and supplied a pantheon of heroes for future generations. However, even the mighty Mycenaeans were not immune to collapse. Around 1100 BCE, a mysterious and dramatic period known as the Greek Dark Ages descended upon the Aegean. The grand palaces were violently destroyed or abandoned, writing systems vanished, sophisticated pottery production ceased, and trade networks disintegrated. Population levels plummeted, and communities became isolated and agrarian. The causes are complex and debated. Internal social unrest, a series of natural disasters, widespread migrations, perhaps the elusive sea peoples mentioned in Egyptian records, or a combination of factors. For nearly 4 centuries, Greece entered a period of regression, a blank slate from which a new civilization would eventually emerge. From the crucible of the Dark Ages, a new Greek world slowly began to coalesce, marking the beginning of the Archaic period, circa 800 to 480 BCE. This was a time of immense transformation, laying the groundwork for the glory of the Classical Age. The most significant development was the emergence of the polis, the city-state. These were not merely cities, but independent political entities, self-governing communities comprising an urban center and its surrounding agricultural land. Athens, Sparta, Corinth, Thebes, Argos, each a distinct entity with its own laws, customs, and political structure, yet bound by a common language, shared myths, and pan-Hellenic sanctuaries like Delphi and Olympia, where the Olympic Games were revived in 776 BCE, fostering a sense of shared Greek identity. The Archaic period witnessed a dramatic demographic boom, which, coupled with land scarcity and internal social pressures, spurred a widespread movement of colonization. Greeks fanned out across the Mediterranean and Black Sea, establishing hundreds of new city-states, from Sicily and southern Italy, Magna Graecia, to the coasts of modern-day Turkey, Ukraine, and Libya. This vast network of colonies facilitated trade, spread Greek culture, and brought new wealth and ideas back to the mainland, but also intensified the diversity among Greek communities. Crucially, writing reappeared, this time through the adaptation of the Phoenician alphabet, leading to the development of the Greek alphabet. This revolution in literacy allowed for the recording of laws, contracts, and, most importantly, epic poetry. The works of Homer, the Iliad and the Odyssey, likely transcribed during this period, became foundational texts, shaping Greek values, providing a common mythological framework, and serving as guides to morality and heroism. Lyric poetry, too, flourished, with poets like Sappho and Archilochus exploring personal emotions and experiences. Politically, the Archaic period saw a transition from aristocratic rule to various forms of government. Tyrants, often popular leaders who seized power from the aristocracy, emerged in many cities, sometimes ushering in periods of stability and prosperity. In Athens, however, a unique experiment began to take root. Early reforms by figures like Draco, known for his harsh laws, and Solon, who abolished debt slavery and established new social classes based on wealth, not birth, laid the groundwork. Later, Cleisthenes introduced reforms around 508 BCE that fundamentally reshaped Athenian society, creating a system of 10 tribes and establishing the Boule, Council of 500, and the Ecclesiae, Assembly of Citizens, moving Athens firmly towards its democratic future. Sparta, meanwhile, evolved into a rigid, militaristic oligarchy, its society entirely geared towards maintaining its helot, state-owned serf population, and military dominance, famously embodied by its rigorous agoge training system. The stage was set for the defining conflict of this era, the Persian Wars, 499 to 449 BCE. The vast Achaemenid Empire, stretching from Egypt to India, represented an existential threat to the independent Greek city-states. The conflict began with the Ionian Revolt, 499 to 493 BCE, when Greek cities in Asia Minor rebelled against Persian rule. receiving limited aid from Athens and Eretria. This provoked the wrath of Persian King Darius I. In 490 BCE, Darius launched his first invasion. The legendary Battle of Marathon saw a smaller Athenian force, led by Miltiades, decisively defeat the mighty Persian army on the plains of Attica, a stunning victory that shattered the myth of Persian invincibility and instilled immense confidence in the Athenians. 10 years later, Darius's son, Xerxes I, launched an even larger invasion, famously bridging the Hellespont with ships. This was the stuff of legend. The heroic stand of 300 Spartans under King Leonidas at Thermopylae, along with other Greek allies, holding a narrow pass against overwhelming odds, a sacrifice that bought precious time for the main Greek forces. Shortly after, the Athenian navy, under the brilliant strategist Themistocles, lured the massive Persian fleet into the narrow straits of Salamis and delivered a crushing naval defeat. Finally, in 479 BCE, the combined Greek forces achieved a decisive victory on land at the Battle of Plataea, effectively ending the Persian threat to mainland Greece. The astonishing victory over Persia ushered in the most celebrated era of Greek history, the Classical period, circa 480 to 323 BCE. This was the crucible of Western civilization, a time of unparalleled intellectual, artistic, and political flourishing, particularly in Athens. The city, having played a pivotal role in the Persian Wars, emerged as the dominant naval power and transformed the defensive Delian League into a de facto Athenian empire. Under the charismatic leadership of Pericles, Athens entered its golden age, circa 461 to 429 BCE. Democracy, though still limited to adult male citizens, excluding women, slaves, and metics, foreign residents, reached its fullest expression. Citizens actively participated in the assembly, served on juries, often numbering hundreds or thousands, and held public office. This was a direct democracy, where the people truly ruled. The vast tribute collected from Delian League members funded an ambitious building program that transformed Athens into a city of unparalleled beauty. The Parthenon, a magnificent Doric temple dedicated to the goddess Athena, rose majestically on the Acropolis, embodying architectural perfection and artistic mastery, adorned with the sculptures of Phidias. This era was a hotbed of intellectual ferment. History was born with Herodotus, the father of history, who recounted the Persian Wars with a keen eye for detail and diverse cultural observations. His successor, Thucydides, in his History of the Peloponnesian War, provided a more rigorous, analytical, and objective account of contemporary events, often delving into political psychology and the nature of power. Philosophy blossomed. Socrates, with his relentless questioning, the Socratic method, and pursuit of truth through dialectic, challenged conventional wisdom and became a towering figure. Though his radical ideas ultimately led to his trial and execution in 399 BCE. His devoted student, Plato, founded the Academy, arguably the first institution of higher learning in the Western world. Plato's philosophical inquiries, often presented as dialogues, explored ideal forms, the nature of reality, justice, and the ideal state, as in his Republic. Aristotle, Plato's brilliant student, stands as one of the most influential thinkers in history. A polymath, he wrote on logic, ethics, politics, physics, biology, and poetics, systematizing knowledge and laying the foundations for disciplines that would endure for millennia. The theater became a central feature of Athenian life. Great tragedians like Aeschylus, Oresteia, Sophocles, Oedipus Rex, Antigone, and Euripides, Medea, Bacchae, explored universal themes of fate, justice, and the human condition, often with profound psychological depth. Aristophanes, the master of old comedy, satirized contemporary politicians, philosophers, and societal norms with wit and biting humor. However, the very success and expansion of Athens ignited the fears of its great rival, Sparta. Sparta, with its unique dual kingship, emphasis on military discipline, and rigid social structure designed to control its large Helot population, viewed Athenian democracy and naval power with suspicion. The stage was set for the catastrophic Peloponnesian War, 431 to 404 BCE, a brutal, protracted conflict that tore Greece apart. Thucydides' meticulous account provides chilling insights into its devastating impact. The Athenian plague, the ruthless Mytilenean debate, the disastrous Sicilian expedition, and the moral erosion that accompanied the struggle for supremacy. The war was a clash of ideologies and military strengths, Athenian naval dominance versus Spartan hoplite supremacy. Ultimately, after decades of fighting, alliances shifting, and considerable Persian financial aid to Sparta, Athens was defeated. Its long walls were torn down, its empire dissolved, and its democratic institutions briefly replaced by an oligarchic regime, the 30 Tyrants. The Peloponnesian War left Greece exhausted, fragmented, and vulnerable. The brief Spartan hegemony was soon challenged by Thebes, leading to further internal conflicts. The constant cycle of interpolis warfare created a power vacuum, weakening the very fabric of Greek city-state independence. While the Greek city-states squandered their strength in internecine conflict, a new power was quietly rising in the north, Macedon. Once dismissed by the southern Greeks as a semi-barbaric kingdom, Macedon was transformed under the brilliant and ambitious King Philip II, reigned 359 to 336 BCE. Philip was a master strategist, diplomat, and military innovator. He reformed the Macedonian army, introducing the formidable sarissa, a pike up to 18 feet long, and developing a highly disciplined combined arms approach that included heavy cavalry and specialized siege engines. Through a cunning blend of diplomacy, bribery, and overwhelming military force, Philip gradually brought the fractured Greek city-states under his control. His decisive victory over a combined Athenian and Theban army at the Battle of Chaeronea in 338 BCE irrevocably ended the era of independent Greek city-states. Philip then formed the League of Corinth, ostensibly to unite the Greeks against their ancient enemy, Persia, and began preparations for a grand invasion. But Philip's destiny was cut short by his assassination in 336 BCE. His son, a young man of just 20, who had been tutored by none other than Aristotle, ascended to the throne. His name was Alexander III, forever immortalized as Alexander the Great. Alexander's reign, 336 to 323 BCE, was one of the most astonishing periods in military history. In little over a decade, he led his Macedonian and Greek armies on an unparalleled conquest that would reshape the ancient world. He swiftly crushed Greek rebellions, then embarked on his father's grand vision, the conquest of the vast Persian Empire. In a series of brilliant campaigns and decisive battles, Granicus, 334 BCE, Issus, 333 BCE, and the climactic Gaugamela, 331 BCE, Alexander utterly shattered the power of Darius III and brought the Achaemenid Empire to its knees. His conquests stretched from Greece across Anatolia, the Levant, Egypt, where he founded the city of Alexandria, which would become a beacon of learning, Mesopotamia, Persia, and all the way to the borders of India. Alexander was not merely a conqueror. He harbored a vision of a Hellenized world. He founded numerous cities named Alexandria, encouraged intermarriage between his soldiers and local women, and sought to integrate conquered peoples into his administration. His sudden death in Babylon in 323 BCE at the age of 32 left his immense empire without a clear successor, plunging it into a tumultuous period of conflict. Alexander's death unleashed a century of brutal warfare among his generals, the Diadochi, successors, as they carved up his vast empire. The result was the establishment of several powerful Hellenistic kingdoms. The Ptolemaic kingdom in Egypt, founded by Ptolemy Soter, which lasted for nearly 3 centuries, famous for its capital Alexandria and its last ruler, Cleopatra Sisavent. The Seleucid Empire, founded by Seleucus I Nicator, which encompassed most of Alexander's Asian territories, stretching from Anatolia to India. The Antigonid Kingdom in Macedon and mainland Greece, founded by Antigonus the One-Eyed. Other, smaller kingdoms emerged, such as the Attalid Kingdom of Pergamon. This period, known as the Hellenistic Age, 323 to 31 BCE, was a time of unprecedented cultural diffusion and intellectual vibrancy. Greek culture, language, Koine Greek became the lingua franca of the Eastern Mediterranean. Art, architecture, and political ideas spread throughout Alexander's former empire, profoundly influencing indigenous cultures. These kingdoms were grander in scale than the old city-states, often ruled by absolute monarchs, but they were also centers of innovation. The Hellenistic world saw remarkable advancements in science and technology. The Library of Alexandria became the intellectual capital of the world, housing an unparalleled collection of scrolls and attracting scholars from across the globe. Here, Euclid systematized geometry in his Elements, a textbook that dominated mathematical education for over 2,000 years. Archimedes of Syracuse made groundbreaking discoveries in mathematics, e.g., calculating pi, inventing the Archimedes screw, and physics, principles of buoyancy and levers. Eratosthenes accurately calculated the Earth's circumference. Aristarchus of Samos proposed a heliocentric model of the solar system, though it was largely disregarded for centuries. New philosophical schools emerged, offering guidance for living in a vastly expanded and often chaotic world. Stoicism, founded by Zeno of Citium, emphasized virtue, reason, and living in harmony with nature, accepting what cannot be controlled. Epicureanism, founded by Epicurus, focused on achieving ataraxia, tranquility, through the pursuit of moderate pleasures and avoidance of pain and fear. Hellenistic art moved towards greater realism, emotional intensity, and monumental scale. exemplified by sculptures like the Winged Victory of Samothrace and the Laocoon group. However, the Hellenistic kingdoms were also characterized by constant warfare among themselves as they vied for territory and influence. This perpetual conflict, coupled with internal weaknesses and occasional rebellions, gradually eroded their strength. From the west, a new, formidable power was steadily rising: Rome. Rome's initial expansion brought it into contact with the Greek colonies in southern Italy, Magna Graecia. The disciplined Roman legions and their strategic political alliances proved superior to the often mercenary-dependent and disunited Hellenistic armies. Through a series of Macedonian wars, 214 to 148 BCE, Rome gradually extended its influence eastward, ultimately defeating the Antigonid kings of Macedon. The symbolic destruction of the city of Corinth in 146 BCE, following a Greek revolt, marked the definitive end of Greek political independence on the mainland. Over the next century, Rome systematically absorbed the remaining Hellenistic kingdoms. The Seleucid Empire was gradually diminished and finally annexed. Egypt, the last great Hellenistic power under the formidable Queen Cleopatra VII, was finally brought under Roman control after her defeat by Octavian, later Emperor Augustus, at the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE. This event is typically considered the formal end of the Hellenistic Age and the ushering in of the Roman Empire as the dominant power in the Mediterranean. Under Roman rule, Greece became a province, but its cultural influence was profound and enduring. The Romans, though conquerors, were captivated by Greek culture, art, philosophy, and literature. Roman elites eagerly learned Greek, collected Greek art, and emulated Greek architectural styles. Indeed, the Roman Empire, while politically and militarily dominant, became profoundly Hellenized in its cultural fabric. Many Roman emperors like Hadrian were Philhellenes, lovers of Greek culture. Greek cities, particularly Athens, continue to be important centers of learning and philosophy, attracting students from across the Roman world. Greek remained the lingua franca of the Eastern Roman Empire, and many prominent figures in Roman society, including philosophers like Epictetus and medical practitioners like Galen, were Greek. The rise of Christianity also saw early Christian communities flourish in Greek-speaking urban centers like Antioch, Ephesus, and Corinth. And the New Testament itself was written in Koine Greek. As the Roman Empire gradually split, the Eastern Roman Empire, centered on Constantinople, increasingly adopted Greek as its official language and culture, effectively becoming the Byzantine Empire. For over 1,000 years, this empire served as the preserver of classical Greek texts and knowledge, bridging the gap between antiquity and the Renaissance. Byzantine scholars meticulously copied and studied ancient Greek manuscripts, without which much of our knowledge of classical Greek literature and philosophy would be lost. The ultimate fall of Constantinople to the Ottoman Turks in 1453 marked the end of the direct political continuity of the Greek-speaking empire that had evolved from the Roman Empire. However, the legacy of ancient Greece was far from extinguished. The rediscovery of Greek texts by Western European scholars during the Renaissance sparked a fervent revival of classical learning, profoundly shaping the intellectual, artistic, and political landscape of Europe. Greek philosophy, particularly the works of Plato and Aristotle, influenced scholasticism and humanism. Greek architectural styles provided models for countless buildings. Greek democracy and republican ideals inspired the Enlightenment thinkers and the founders of modern republics, notably in the United States and France. The very language of science and medicine is replete with Greek roots. From the democratic principles that underpin modern governance to the philosophical inquiries that drive scientific research, from the architectural marvels that continue to inspire awe to the epic tales and dramatic tragedies that explore the depths of the human condition. The echoes of ancient Greece resonate profoundly in our modern world. It is a testament to a civilization that, though its empires have crumbled and its gods have faded, continues to enlighten, challenge, and inspire humanity with its enduring pursuit of beauty, truth, and knowledge. The tapestry of Greek history is indeed endless, its threads woven deeply into the fabric of human civilization itself.